Hi everybody, I'm so glad you can join me while we do this. We shift into a different way of having our community kitchen. It's still going to be lots of fun. You'll still learn some new things, and then hopefully you'll learn how to make pancakes, and you'll take some pictures and share it with us on Instagram so we can see the great wonderful things that you're doing. Today we're going to make pancakes. This is something that you can make the dry ingredients up ahead of time, and then it's just like having a box in your fridge, in your cupboard I should say, only instead you've made them all from scratch. All you have to do is add eggs, oil, and a little bit of milk, and then you're good to go. So we are going to start with, after you've washed your hands, ready to go with this, make sure that you've got everything all out in place. So there's the recipe for you. And as you can see, I've gone and got all my ingredients assembled. So that's kind of the first thing that you do. It just makes it way easier when you go to actually make your pancakes. So what we're gonna do is measure 2 cups of flour into the bowl. So the way to measure flour is to fill it and then level it off with a knife. So that's half a cup, because I don't have a 1 cup measure that fits in this hole. So how many half cups make a whole cup? 2 half cups make a whole cup. So we're gonna put 4 of these in. And that's the easy part. Try not to make a mess. I am making a very big one. Throw a little extra flour in there. And then we are going to measure in 2 tablespoons of baking powder. Baking powder is what makes it rise up nice and big. You can, if you don't have any baking powder, you can leave it out, add a little more milk, and then you make crepes. So that's the nice thing about, once you know how to make pancakes, there's a lot of different things that you can make. So 2 tablespoons of baking powder, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and then 1 1/2 teaspoons of salt. Okay, that was 2 teaspoons of salt. So a little too much, but that's okay. That'll work too. And then 2 eggs, 2 cups of milk, and 1/3 cup of oil. Now I don't have any milk, so another learning thing, this is 18% coffee cream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour a cup in here, and then I'm going to add a cup of water to it. So that's another little cool little trick. If you're out of milk and you just happen to have cream, you can do that. So the other thing we need to do first before we add the milk is mix this all up so that all the dry ingredients are evenly distributed. The last thing you want is a big, mouthful of baking powder or something like that. That would be nasty. We're gonna make a little well in the dry ingredients. And then we're gonna pour in the milk. I'm learning while we go do this too, because even though I know how to make pancakes, I'm not so good on the whole video thing. So we're gonna crack an egg. Now, I am gonna show you what I was taught to do. Instead of cracking the egg straight in, you're gonna crack it separately, one at a time, into a bowl, because you wanna make sure you haven't got any eggshells in it. Half the time I end up with eggshells in it, and then you're fishing around in here. So you've got the egg in there, you're gonna pour it in that way. And then we're gonna do the second one, cracked into the bowl like that. It's all good, there's no eggshells in there. So we're gonna measure that in. Then we're gonna add 1/3 cup of oil. Now you can use, this is canola oil. You can use melted butter if you want. Or you can use olive oil, it'll get a little bit of a different taste. Sunflower oil, peanut oil, just as long as you've got some kind of fat going into that. So then we're just gonna mix this all up. This is my recipe from when I was a kid. I grew up eating these. And my mom would mix up all the dry ingredients and she would just keep them in the cupboard. So anytime we wanted pancakes, We just had to add the eggs and the oil and the milk, and we were good to go. So you want it a little bit lumpy. You don't want to mix it too fine. That's good because it'll all cook out. So here's another learning thing for you. If you mix it too much, you form something called gluten, which some of you, well, there's gluten in it anyway, but that just makes more gluten and it makes it tougher. So if you end up over mixing it, you might want to let it sit for a while so it can rest. Technically, these are called quick breads. Okay, so now we're just gonna go over to the stove to cook them. So we're gonna fire up the stove on a medium heat. You wanna make sure the handle's turning in so that nobody walking by will catch it, knock it off the thing. This is a non-stick frying pan. I still like to put a little bit of oil in it. Not a lot, just a little bit. Mostly because I kind of like the bubbly part that it makes around the frying pan. We're gonna spread the oil around and then let the pan get a little bit hot. And then we're going to cook our pancakes. While we're waiting for the pan to heat up, if you've got any frozen blueberries, you can put those in. Chocolate chips are delicious if you mix those in. Chopped up ham, chopped up bacon's really good if you want a bacon pancake. That's the nice thing about this. This is a base. You can have them for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I love having pancakes for dinner. I think we were gonna do that one day at our group, weren't we? Okay, so then you just spoonful into the frying pan like that, and then you let it sit. You don't want to crowd them, because if you do that, then they all stick together and then it makes a hot mess and it's really hard to flip them. So we're just going to let those sit for a minute. Turn a light on here, maybe we can see a little bit better. So what you're looking for, you can see the bubbles that are in here. This is the baking powder starting to work. It's starting to rise. But those bubbles are wet bubbles. So if you tried to flip this, even though the base is firmed up a little bit, you just have a hot mess in your frying pan. You want to wait until these bubbles are what we call dry bubbles. And that's how you know when it's time to flip your pancakes. So in the meantime, we'll just sit and kind of watch them for a minute or two. They don't take very long. Hopefully you've got lots of butter and syrup to put on them. You see they're starting to bubble a little bit around the edges. All that deliciousness cooking away. You can hear it starting. You don't want to have your pan too hot, because if you do, you'll burn them before they cook. And that's just nasty to cut into a pancake and have it still runny but burnt on the outside. That would be really, really yucky. You can see how it's starting to dry. I don't know if you can see the difference on the film, but around the edges, it's starting to get a little bit dry. That tells you that it's getting nice and cooked. I'm just gonna lift this up though, so you can see what I'm talking about. See, it's holding its shape, but not very well yet. So we want to let that sit for a little bit longer until the bubbles on the top are all nice and dry too. That's really important. You see this one? This is what I'm talking about. This is a big wet bubble. We want a dry bubble. This is one of the easiest meals that you can make. If you don't have any milk, like we talked about, you just have cream, you can add water. Even if your milk is sour, you can use sour milk, and that's like making a buttermilk pancake, which is really nice too. They're very famous down in the States. People like buttermilk pancakes. So they're coming along really nicely here. You can see they're starting to, you can see it's changing. Hopefully you can see that in the video. As it's cooking, it's moving more and more. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get under it And I'm going to turn it just a little bit, being very careful not to touch the pan. Use a good spatula. And that'll keep it, because my frying pan doesn't cook all that evenly. So if yours doesn't, you might want to turn them a little bit. And that makes it cook evenly. Sometimes the outer edge of the pan cooks, or the inner edge of the pan, I should say, cooks faster than the outer edge. But there, that, it's really starting to come together now. And I think we've been, what, maybe 2 minutes? So not that long. Just have a little peek underneath and see how they're doing. Ooh, look at that, almost perfect. Almost perfect. So this is something you can make your family for dinner one night. Oh, and say hello to the pug, and say hello to the big dog. Those are my friends. Okay, so now look at this. This is what I'm talking about. You can see around the edges here, these holes, you can see they're nice and dry. That's what you're looking for. So once you get those, then you know it's time to flip. So we're gonna flip this over. Oh, look at those, they're beautiful. Another one there, another one there. Oh yeah. Perfect pancakes. They don't take nearly as long once you flip them. Half as much time is a good indicator. So if you cook them for 4 minutes, 2 minutes on this side, it's all about keeping just a medium heat so that they cook nice and evenly all the way through. And that is how you make pancakes. So let's go over that again. 2 cups of flour, 2 tablespoons of sugar, 1.5 teaspoons of salt, 2 eggs, 1/3 cup of oil, which I brought back over here. Mix all the dry ingredients together. Mix the wet ingredients, pour it into a well, give it a quick mix up. You don't want to, you can have it lumpy, that's okay. And then fire it into the frying pan and make your pancakes. So. And then we can pull them out, turn the stove off, put them on a plate. There, just like that. A little butter, a little syrup, and you are good to go. Thanks, friends. Hope you enjoyed that. Hope you learned something. Got any questions? Shoot me a message on Instagram through the Gourmet website or through the Instagram page. And yeah, have fun. Take care. Bye.